Coming up on DTNS, how many of our listeners use generative models regularly? What about passkeys? And which streaming service can they not live without? It's our 2024 listener episode. This is the Daily Tech News Show for Thursday, December 26th, 2024. Happy Boxing Day in Los Angeles. I'm Todd Merritt.
From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Roger Chang, the show's producer.
Welcome to our end of the year listener hangout, co-host, whatever you want to call it, show. We invite several of our supporters to come on the show and talk to us about what they've been doing, what they're up to. And this year we're doing it more hangout style. We're just going to discuss some topics that have been trending throughout the year. Some of them were suggested by the folks on the show. Let's go around the horn and introduce everybody. Starting off with Mark Bussell Jr., a.k.a. Anon Jr. from sunny adjacent North Carolina. Anon Jr., it's so great to have you here, man. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. Good to see you again. Although that last time was in DragonCon.
It's been that long, huh? Wow. Yeah. If anybody's on our Patreon, then you recognize the username, Anon Jr. We also have Andrew Tzakis, firmware engineer in the Chicagoland area. Andrew, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's super excited to talk to you in person.
Good to talk to you as well as Todd Belcher, technologist turned marketing technologist, not retired, but in sunny Florida.
Hey, how's it going? Yes, definitely a funny way to be introduced to you both, Tom and Sarah and Roger earlier.
Thanks for hanging out with us, man. Also with us, Gary Fisher, the senior geek from sunny Southern California. We've interacted many times over the years. Gary, good to have you back, man.
Yeah, good to see you again.
And the voice you hear at the end of our shows quite often, Howard Yermish, by day a director of product for an enterprise software company, and by night a music composer and photographer. Howard, welcome and thank you.
It is so nice to be part of this show, part of the DTNS family of podcasts, where we can help each other understand.
Yay! It's live.
It's you. It's been you the whole time.
The whole time.
That's great, fun. Man. Thank you again for doing that, and thank you for being here.
You got it. I love being here. This is great.
All right, so like I said, we're just going to do a hangout. We picked some topics. Sarah, kick us off. What's the first one?
All right, so the first one is AI. If anybody hasn't been living under a rock over, the 2024, you probably know a little bit about it. You might use it. You might not use it. You might have thoughts about it. And we wanted to go around the horn. But who is using generative AI? And if so, why and how? And if you're not, why aren't you? So just I'm going to go clockwise here and start with you, Andrew. What is your current feeling about it?
So I think it definitely has a place. But it kind of depends on what you're doing. So in my line of work, I'm working a lot on the firmware, so the software that runs on hardware, and that's not something it's company firmware code. There's not a lot of examples of it. So that's kind of hard for AI to generate something when it's generating things that are based on a lot of samples that it has, open source code and stuff like that. But when we're dealing with code that companies keep privately and is not something that every person can really do, it doesn't have a good example to draw on. So in my line, there's also like the other side of like, okay, well, you need to make test programs. Test programs run on PCs and phones and stuff like that. So there it's great because you can just describe, well, I need this generic thing to happen on a platform that you're very familiar with. And then, so it works really well there. So I think it kind of depends on, what you're doing and if what it is generating has a good sample base. So that's kind of like from my work experience, how it's being used. So not as much, I guess, as some places, but yeah, it can be helpful for some things.
It sounds like you're using it like an assistant, like a little prototyper-ish.
Yeah, like, I definitely, the name Copilot, I think is a good idea, Mm-hmm. And, because it's, and the other side of this is like, well, if you're doing something repetitive, it can kind of help or infer from your code. And that's something that, I think, if you have a big enough internal like company sample of code, it could maybe train itself on. But anything that it does, you kind of have to keep an eye on. I did have like not too long ago, I was working on it's a Windows API, but like no one uses it. So like when I was looking online, I could not find examples of it. So I was like, okay, generate code to use this API. And what it generated, like it didn't compile. Some of the names were made up, so it kind of came up with something. It still needs a lot of hand holding in that respect. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff from you, Andrew. Gary, what are your thoughts on generative AI? How do you use it, if at all?
Well, I've been playing around with it for a while. When ChatGPT first came out, I was still working at Disneyland at the time in Galaxy's Edge, and I asked it to describe how the Rise of the Resistance attraction worked. And I was wondering if it could figure out actually how it worked, because a lot of people ask and we don't tell them. But it gave me the story of Rise of the Resistance, but then it just hallucinated and added the one of the endings of Star Tours to it. So I corrected it. And but since then, that was right after it came out. Since then, I've been using it to create the thumbnail that I have for my Substack is an old man yelling at clouds, and I generated that. I don't know. I've used a bunch of them. I think it was probably, what's the one Microsoft has? And then I've been digitizing and editing down old home movies that my grandfather and my father took from 8mm to digital. And I've been wanting to put music beds on them. And I was using like Creative Commons music from like Alexander Nakarada and Kevin MacLeod, Brian Teo. But I started playing around with Udio.com, which is still in beta.
Yeah.
And just in the 2 or 3 months I've been using it, it's been getting better and better. I'm paying $10 so I can create up to a 2-minute and 10-second clip, and then you can extend that. The free version only lets you do 30 seconds, and I think it lets you do 10 generations per day. And it takes a lot of iteration to get what you want usually. But I can just see that it's getting better as time went by. So far, I haven't been able to get a newsy bed for my podcast that starts off with a trumpet flourish or a brass flourish and then goes to the kind of thing. But I'm still trying.
Right. Howard Yermish, where are you standing on AI?
So I have 2 really interesting use cases, and one is I'll call it strong feelings about these different generative services with music creation, since it's a thing that I am a trained composer. I know how to create things, so I sometimes see the results, and it makes me feel feelings. On one hand, I love that people are creating music. That's always a good thing. And then sometimes I listen to it and say, I'm glad that I'm not using it to be my voice instead of me. So I think I'm sort of conflicted that way. I want to see the tools get better, but they don't know how to be right like I want to write. So it's just interesting that way. From work, the thing we're actually using a lot of generative AI for ChatGPT and some stuff inside of Salesforce itself. We're doing it almost as like a research tool for what search engines are typically bad at. So for example, like ChatGPT is really good about say, tell me the top 5 trends in this particular kind of product. And then you just ask it to keep giving you the next 5 and the next 5 and the next 5, which in search would be impossible to get 100 pages into searches. But when you're really trying to figure out some interesting innovations, having the ability to kind of dig in a little farther and then go see the sources that it comes from kind of helps out from product design and competitor research in ways that previously we just never really did. So it's kind of a nice way to leverage what ChatGPT is good at versus what Google is terrible at.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I use it all the time. I guess when ChatGPT got kind of popularized, when ChatGPT 3 came out, I put out 40 episodes of a podcast trying to kind of figure out how could I make generative AI kind of deliver information to me in a way that I wanted to consume it. And it worked out pretty well. But I also had to stop doing it because it was like taking up too much of my mornings, getting up every morning at 5 a.m. And what I would do is I would get the MLB stats from the previous day and generate an episode right on the fly, which was super fun. But in work, unfortunately, I'm not able to do stuff like that. So web development, unlike Andrew, there's tons of examples of web development for all the generative engines to go out there and find. And so my work in JavaScript, HTML, etc., is all very well documented within these tools and makes my life a lot easier.
It sounds like across the board, most of you have found it to be helpful, but not unexpectedly like, oh my gosh, like it has turned my world upside down. Just helpful. Is that fair?
I think if I had more time in the day, my world would be turned upside down. There's a lot I want to get to that I'm not quite there yet,
Well, you should have an AI help you find more time in the day.
I'm working on it. We're working on it. Yeah.
But sometimes they just, I don't know. It ends up taking some time out of your day. Mark, I know that you had told us before we started the show, maybe don't have a whole lot to say about this, but how does AI play into your life?
Right now, I've just been poking around at the edges of what ChatGPT and some of the other LLMs can do. I do plan on using it as a sort of research assistant for a project I've got coming up in 2025. Although I am definitely going to make sure I ask for links and sources, given some of the hallucination problems that are still out there. I also want to get into a little bit of the image generation. I've got a podcast I want to start, and I've been thinking about, based off of what Heaton said with his experience with the UDO, possibly using that, although I've got a friend that I do need to give right of first refusal to write any music for that. More so than myself, my middle sister, who goes by the handle Ray Est on the Coffee Craft server, she has been using it a lot more. We've done an interesting little do-si-do in our careers. I started out as a computer programmer, and at the time she was learning how to do luthiery from one of the local guys. And now I am working as a luthier in a repair shop, and she is doing data analyst. And so she's now having to learn Python and SQL. And so she's been getting a lot of mileage out of ChatGPT. How do I write a query to do X, Y, Z? And really trying to come about it from that. She knows enough to understand the syntax and look at it like, oh yeah, there shouldn't be a semicolon there. But not enough to just write the query, from scratch without the assistance of ChatGPT. Although it's also, it's impacted some of our fun a little bit too. We've got a D&D game that we run once a month, and Arcadius, her husband, also on the Coffee Craft server, was trying to argue about whether or not he could fit 180 pounds of loot in a 50-gallon barrel and float it down the waterway. And I thought that was unrealistic. And while we're in the middle of all this, Ray Est goes to ChatGPT and says, well, according to the Euclidean theorem, you could fit 417 pounds without it sinking. And it's like, okay, all right, we'll take your CPD's answer for that.
That's funny. Yeah, that's good. Anybody surprised by anybody else's answer here?
I'm surprised by the vast array of different ways that people are using it. So
just the variety. Yeah. Nobody's using it exactly the same
I feel
way.
like I have those conversations with people all the time. Sometimes I'm like, ChatGPT just sucks. I mean, it just like spit out something that was just clearly wrong. And they're like, are you kidding? I mean, that's the only way I even write emails anymore.
Well, I was trying to find the source of a quote one time, and Claire Gallagher in Ireland suggested I use ChatGPT. and it took me right to the source, whereas it kept Google and DuckDuck just kept taking me to something that was completely irrelevant.
What difference 12 months makes. ChatGPT used to just tell you, make up a quote and attribute it.
I said it. Yeah.
And that is actually along the lines of what I want to do with it for the Bible study podcast that I want to do. I've got a lot of stuff where I read a lot of commentators citing this, that, and the other as if it's, the way it is. And that's great and all. I grew up under trust but verify. And so for some of the stuff that I can't quite, I don't see an immediate connection. I want to go back and so what is the origin of, and I'm hoping to use ChatGPT for that kind of research assistant.
I could see that being really helpful for that.
Digging down into those citations, right? That's it's really, especially when there's translations.
I mean, I don't doubt them. I don't, I don't think they're, but again, I grew up under trust but verify, so I want to, find some.
But there's nobody who's not using it here either. Which, I mean, it's people who.
Well, you're talking to a bunch of techies. If there's some new technology, we're going to try it out.
But you would think that some of the public outcry in our audience,
look at half of our, our backgrounds. It's like people like their tools.
Is anybody using it outside of work, right? Like I barely ever use it outside of work. I guess that would be an interesting one.
And there's some people who are the opposite, who are like, I can only use. In fact, Andrew, you somewhat were saying I can't use it for a lot of work just because, but I can use it for certain parts of work.
Yeah, and actually, I've used it when I've used it out of work, because it pops up in Google Docs now and everything. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Make me 2 columns of this, and I was actually, that's where it actually surprised me for the first, because I was just like, that was a lot easier, because I guess I don't use the word processor enough to okay, I need to do this. You're always searching for, but it's I gave it I need to do this, and it gave me a really good head start, and from there I could edit. So I can, it's definitely has, a lot of uses that, the everyday, person can find easily. I think Google's trying, everyone's really trying to push it into their products. So you just stumble upon, the shining, icons and stuff like that. But it's I find it there for me more useful, but I definitely recognize my work is kind of like a small subset, like Todd was saying, with web code and stuff like that. There's tons of examples, and it's going to do great on that. So
so can you give it a code segment and have it check it for bugs?
I haven't done that yet, but using it as a LinkedIn, a code reviewer. I'm interested in that, but I'm a little skeptical, I guess, because it's in terms of just trying to understand the whole idea of what the code's doing. It'd be interesting to see what it comes up with, compared to a lot of the existing tools that look for errors and things like that.
I don't code anymore, but back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I'm old. It would have been nice if I was having a problem, if I could have just handed it to an AI and say, okay, what am I doing wrong here?
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Just being able to take your code, feed it to the AI, and have it put comments in the code for you when you take on a project that wasn't yours in the first place. For example, getting comments is great. Writing comments that you don't want to have to write is great. And then, with debugging, you run into the errors and you kind of get an idea for where the error is at. And that's where the AI helps you troubleshoot quite a bit. And I'll give you working code back that you can try in a test environment, kind of go back and forth with the AI a little bit and get things done.
Isn't that what the Copilot or the GitHub Copilot is supposed to do?
It does, right. So I have that set up with VS Code. In fact, I switched to VS Code because of that. However, I don't love working with the AI directly in my text editor. I like to bounce around to Claude and Gemini as well. So I'm all over the place.
We're going to take a quick break and come back with another topic. But if you have feedback about anything, maybe you want to get in touch with these folks and say something to them. You can start with our social networks. We are at DTNS Show. We just changed our Instagram, by the way. So we are at DTNS Show on X, on Mastodon, on Instagram, on Threads, and we are at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok and on YouTube. So go check us out there and say hello. All right. How many of you use a password manager?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
We've got
definitely.
all the hands up.
All the hands.
Yeah.
Hands up. Yep.
So,
Everybody.
so that doesn't surprise me. Like I said, we are technologically savvy people here. We understand the need for security. How many of you are using passkeys?
I am for some of my stuff.
We've all the hands, but some of them were shaky. Yeah. It looks like Todd and Andrew particularly were being shaky on it. Like Todd, starting with you, like what's the shakiness about? What's holding you off on diving fully in?
I use it on most things. Yeah. Sometimes I live in a household where we share a lot of accounts, and sometimes it's just tricky to use certain passkeys for certain things. But
because
otherwise, I like
they're
it.
not on the right device, or why? Like,
yeah. Device-based passkeys are my favorite. Yes.
Yeah. What about you, Andrew?
So I mainly use it with my Google account. Like, there's not a lot of places that I encounter. It's starting to pop up now. So it's really just, it's not as prevalent. My shakiness was like when it first started on, I started using it with Google. You could use use your camera and, scan the QR code, and then it connects and it does the passkey. And I'm like, that's amazing, but like sometimes that QR code won't come up. So I'm just like, I'm like, it literally worked here, and then it didn't work. And I'm like, okay, now I have to type in my crazy long password. So I'm like, it's not I guess ready yet, but I like the concept. I definitely, I don't know any of my actual passwords, so it might as well be, something that's stored on the device. So good potential, but it needs more, I guess, momentum.
Gary, you seemed maybe a little on the edge as well.
Well, not really. It's my wife and daughter that are on the edge.
I see.
But I use the Apple password manager. It was the keychain for a while, and they just broke it out into its own app, which confused my wife because she went looking for it in settings and it wasn't there anymore. Mm-hmm. But what I've done is my wife and I have all these accounts, and we don't have anything to hide from each other. And so I have shared most of my passwords with her and vice versa. But I like the fact that if I've got a relatively new MacBook Air here with a fingerprint sensor, and as long as I've logged into something once before, it pops up and pops up the little symbol for the fingerprint sensor, and I just put my index finger on it, and I'm logged in. And, occasionally, that's the other reason my wife doesn't like it is I am never more than like 2 feet away from my phone, but she'll leave her phone somewhere and go wandering off with her laptop, and then she wants to log into something, and she'll need to do 2FA with her phone, and she doesn't like that.
Yeah.
And then my daughter has an Android phone, and so she's not even in that ecosystem. So my wife still has a Microsoft Word document on the desktop of her Windows laptop that doesn't actually have the passwords in it. It has hints. So it's a little more secure, and you need to be able to log into her laptop to get to that. But she
what about
still uses that
passkeys though? Are they taking up the passkeys at all?
Not so much.
No. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Now, I like it that I can log into my bank account just by looking at my phone. It's kind of scary that I can do that, but You know, I can pay for my
That's
groceries
what I
at.
do. I love
Yeah.
it.
I can pay for my groceries
me.
at Trader Joe's with
Yeah.
just by looking at my phone. It's great.
Mark and Howard, you seem to be the most bullish on passkeys. Would you like to arm wrestle over who loves passkeys the most?
I love passkeys so much. I've been teaching my children that they need to incorporate them into their password manager. I think that was one of a proud father moments was having my kids treat password security like it mattered when they were just kids. And it was like some game online where they were like, oh, I need a secure password. And I was like, yes, you're 9 and you get it. And they're, one's in college and one has graduated college. And so they have great password security. They're all part of my 1Password family account. So when we share stuff, we share it through 1Password as opposed to sharing it through like a text message with a thing. So I'm pretty happy about it. I've been a 1Password user since I want to say 2008 or earlier than that, but just for pretty much forever. It's been great. And with passkeys on 1Password now, those device passwords share across devices that are logged into 1Password. So I even get the I logged in on my laptop and now on my phone, I'm using 1Password.
You're still using the same.
I'm still using the same thing. So it's really, really fluid. My worst experience was at work. We use 1Password as well. And they decided to do single sign-on to open up 1Password. But the combination of single sign-on coming from another source to open 1Password, it was like too much of a loop. So it pretty much just broke that whole experience, and we had to remove the SSO access for at least for what we were doing there. So people still have to type a password into 1Password to open up their vaults for that. So just a word of warning: be careful of SSO plus 1Password.
Gotcha. Yeah. Mark, can you top Howard's optimism?
I don't know if I can top it yet, but I really am hoping that passkeys will solve the problem with family members that don't have as good a password security.
Yeah.
Although I will also say that, like Howard, I recently switched from LastPass to 1Password, and I have really been enjoying 1Password's ability to store those passkeys. I recently upgraded my Chromebook to a refurbished M1 MacBook Air, and logging into Amazon and my Google stuff was worlds easier because all the passkeys were stored in 1Password, and that made life much easier.
Yeah. All right. We've got one more topic to get to in the Hangout. But folks, if you have a question about the show, even though we're not doing live shows during the holiday break, we do answer our emails. So send us an email, feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Sarah, are you still using that new Mac Mini?
Yes. Oh my gosh, my Mac Mini. Can I show well, it has lots of things attached to it, but this is my best friend. I love it so much. So last month I upgraded my Mac Mini to an M4 Pro model. It has been wonderful, but I know not everybody is in the Mac ecosystem. But Gary, I hear that you recently made an upgrade yourself from a Windows desktop PC to an M3 MacBook Air. How did that
go? It was fairly easy. I used to use Macs back in the 80s and 90s. So I had a basic understanding of them. The biggest problem is when I'm switching from Windows to, I have a Chromebook, and then I also still have my Windows desktop here, is knowing which way to scroll. Because Windows
I just changed the default so that they all scroll the same. Yeah,
you and me.
Yeah.
My mother scrolls opposite of me, and I'm just like, "How do you live?"
Yeah. So
she's like, that's the way I do it. Yeah.
But it's been relatively. I mean, I use Audacity for audio editing, and there's a Mac version of that. Hell, there's a Linux version of that. The biggest reason I got the MacBook Air was I was doing this video editing, and I think I was using an ancient version of what's the Adobe? What's the Adobe?
Premiere?
Audition?
Yep. No, it's Premiere for video editing. And it was the Premiere. It was the consumer version of Premiere, the Elements, I think they called it. But I would go, I'd get finished editing and I'd go to create an MP4 or something like that, and then go to bed, and it might be done by the time I got done. And with this M3 laptop that I have, it takes 2 minutes.
See that, and that, the workflow stuff is always the reason that I feel like people will say it doesn't really matter what platform I went to, from the previous platform, if it makes things easier. I'd love to know what the rest of you are using as your sort of primary, your favorite computer. I know we all have a few of them, but Andrew, what are you rocking these days?
Well, it's by work. I'm on Windows all the time now. So for the longest time, I guess, my working career, I was on Linux, and so so I'll run Git Bash and things like that to make Windows more like Linux, because I'm just used to, like, that's how I visualize the files and stuff like that. But every now and then I have to go to Mac, for testing and whatnot. And I'm just like, I don't know where my files are. I just saved this. I'm like, how do I find it? But I mean, that's just, because I don't use it as often.
Yeah. No, I had the same thing the first time I moved over from Windows to Mac. It was a while ago now, like 2009 or whatever. But it took me forever to figure out like how to find apps and install, because everything just works a little differently. You have to get used to it.
Well, I remember asking someone the first time I got my first MacBook Pro. Well, maybe it was just a MacBook. I don't even think the Pro existed. And I was like, how do you get rid of a application? And he was like, just drag it to the trash. And I was like,
yeah.
Really?
That's all you do? You don't have to run an uninstaller? And he was like, no, that's it. That's all you do. And at the time I was like, well, that's weird. It's almost like going from like a stick shift to an automatic car. You're like, well, now it's boring.
How do I get into second gear? There is no second gear.
Right. Yeah. Howard, what about you? What's your current situation?
So I'm currently prevented from upgrading I have an iMac that's the last Intel one. It's great. It still runs fast, but my work laptop is an M2, I guess an M2, and it's ridiculously fast. But my home setup has all this music software on it, and there's software that's not compatible with the latest version of Mac OS. And if I go to upgrade to the latest Mac Mini, which is the same one that you have, Sarah, I was looking at, it's going to come with the latest version of the OS. So I have to kind of wait until all the software says, yes, it's good, you can do this. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. This machine that I've been running now for over 5 years is definitely ready for its time to go to a nice little farm upstate and do some computing in the fields out there somewhere. Especially because this music stuff. Yeah, this music stuff somehow has
the burnout
really
back.
hard processing.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll find some room for it. Yeah, I just took my old Mac Mini off of the desk just for I don't know, just to make room, and it's behind me, and I just keep being like, it's okay, buddy. You're still a good computer. You've done a lot of things. Todd, what about you?
A modest Windows gaming laptop that I use mostly for professional reasons, I swear. Android phones, I used plenty of Macs and liked them, but I started using Windows when Windows started being a thing, and I just never really stopped. So I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. So what about you, Mark? I'm going to guess you've got a few systems. What's your favorite?
Yeah. I've got a few different ones. I've always been predominantly a Windows guy, Windows developer. When I worked at the hospital, it was a Windows shop. So, NT server, NT4, and onward from there. I've got a refurbished Alienware that I'm doing this on right now. for my game streaming and that kind of stuff. But at the start of my medical journey, I was having an interesting problem because I'm in the hospital and I've got nothing to do. So I had my sister bring me my trusty old refurbished Surface Pro 4 that had lasted me way longer than it should have, and it only lasted me another 2 weeks. So I had her go grab the MacBook Pro that I had that I used for testing previously, and that was really good for a couple of weeks. And then I get an inexpensive Chromebook. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but it was within the budget of the time, and that lasted me up until about a few weeks ago, where it just wasn't keeping up with the telehealth stuff. I was trying to do the telehealth meetings with the doctors, and it died on the two-way communication. So I got a refurbished MacBook Air M1 from 2020. And that's been working really nice. I'm first time playing with the ARM chips and the M1 chips. I really like it, except for the fact that I can't get Ruby installed, so I can use Jekyll to build my websites. That's been a little bit of a problem, but I do absolutely love the fingerprint sensor, and I wish everybody would put that on the desktop keyboards, their laptops, everywhere. Just please put a good fingerprint sensor on there.
Yeah,
I will say my one big nit with the Macs is the fact that the menus are all at the top of the screen instead of the top of the window, and if you accidentally click on the desktop or something like that, all of a sudden you have the Finder menus, and you're trying to do something in Final Cut Pro, and it's not working, and it's not the active window. So that can drive me a bit nuts.
Yeah, I've been there as well.
With my home stuff, I bounce around so much between different systems. Like before we started renting a Minecraft server, I had one of my old laptops set up with Ubuntu running the Minecraft server there. So menus up, down, left, right. I can manage.
Do you remap your control key then? That's my question. Yeah.
No,
wow.
I never bothered remapping the control key.
Yeah, I use one keyboard for Windows and Mac, and I don't remap anything either. It just becomes,
I have a magic mouse.
Yeah, you know what you're doing, and when you're doing
I have a magic mouse, and I set it up so I can right and left click. So that at least works.
All right, our last topic here. I think I said the last topic was the last topic, but surprise, bonus topic. Streaming services. Everybody's talking about streaming services. Streaming services are ascendant. No one tries to pretend that cable can survive forever anymore. Out of the panel here, how many of you have one streaming service? I'm assuming that's going to be all the hands up, but yeah. Two streaming services.
Depends on how you count it.
So what does that mean? Which two?
I split an apartment with my middle sister and her husband.
Yeah.
So like I've got Amazon Prime and they've got Netflix, and so it's that kind of thing.
But that's it. When we get to three, you're out.
No, I think my brother-in-law still has Crunchyroll. I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, let's go to three. Anybody with three? Four. We've lost Mark now with four. Five. I feel like I'm at a wedding. Who came the farthest? 200 miles? We lost Andrew. Six. We've got Gary, Todd, and Howard with 6. Seven. We lost Todd. Oh, we lost Howard. Okay. Yeah. There's a lot of streaming services out there. Which ones are must keeps? Like which ones are you like, I might have to cut down from my 6, or even 2 or 3, but I can't lose this one. Is there one that you want to stick up with? Todd, do you have one?
The one that has the most stuff you bought in it, right? Like for me, it's Amazon. I can't give it up because so much stuff is already there.
But you could lose Prime Video and still have access to the things you bought, right?
Yeah.
I know it's tough though, right? It's like
move around. Mm-hmm. Yes. No, I think Amazon does a good enough job. There's enough stuff I'm interested in all the time. I like
Does
to
anyone
pick up
here
on
not have Prime Video?
I mean, I have it because I'm a Prime
right
subscriber.
Yeah, I think everybody.
But I mostly do everything through Plex. Some of it comes from Amazon Video, but yeah. What about
Andrew,
you,
what
Andrew?
about you? Yeah, what's your Prime? Not Prime Video. What's the one you like the most?
Well, I've had two constant, for the longest time. I mean, the Prime, it's almost like I have it for the shipping, so that's why I'm like,
you
I have it. But Netflix I've had just forever. But I'd say and that one's kind of dropped down to that with ads tier by itself, and I'm like, that's good enough because it's so occasional. But Disney Plus is the one I keep keeping as the one without ads and all that because mainly I'm a big Star Wars fan and Marvel's fan.
No kidding.
And did you on the video I have a Star Wars shirt, Star Wars background. So yeah, I enjoy the they keep coming out with content enough that I keep it like there's a new one not too far so I enjoy that one. I have when it comes to like Paramount Plus and Max, those are like I'll get for a few months to watch a show that I like and then I'll let go, or I'll wait for a special and but those come and go. But Disney Plus and Netflix I've had constantly, I guess.
Does anyone here not have Netflix? I know Mark, you have it sort of in a cohabitation arrangement, but anyone else just not? Yeah. No, I think everybody keeps Netflix around. I think Andrew, your description is perfect. Like, I'll just go to the bottom tier because I'll use it occasionally. Like they hold on for dear life that way by just having things that might be interesting.
It's not necessarily the exact thing you want to watch, but Netflix is great for just sort of like, I'm kind of tired. Let's eat some pizza and watch an old episode of the show that I already know I like.
Yeah,
I feel
or
like
something
Netflix
comes
is
up
really
and you're
good
like,
for that.
oh, I heard about that thing. Yeah, I'll try it. I have Netflix after all. Let's watch Red Letter or Notice or whatever it says. Howard, what about you? What's your must-have?
It's hard for me to answer this because between my wife and kids and sharing all these different services, every time I think about saying, well, what about this one? And someone's like, well, I'm watching the Great British Bake Off. How can we not have Netflix? My personal favorite, it's the one that has the least amount of content, but it's so good, is Apple TV Plus.
Oh, okay.
And it's just the shows that are on it are just really, really good. So I keep looking at that one saying, oh, that would be the one that has the fewest or the least amount of content, but it's so good.
Are you watching the new season of Silo?
I am right there with you, my friend. I'm locked in on that show right now. It's really good.
It's really good. I agree. And there have been over the last, 6 months or so, so many, reports of Apple being like, all right, we're bleeding money. We're spending way too much money on these series and nobody's watching them. People are watching them. Not as much as anybody is watching something on Netflix or even Crunchyroll, to be fair. But Apple TV Plus has some good stuff.
Yeah, I feel like those reports just kind of missed the fact that all of these companies went through, they spend a lot of money at the beginning, then rein in the cost once you know what works. And Apple's no exception. They've got plenty of money to spend, but that doesn't mean they're going to waste it. So I feel like that's part of it. Gary, did we get your must-have?
Well, we've got Hulu and Disney Plus on a bundle that I'm now using. I got tired of paying $200 a month to my cable company for 500 gig up and like 20 down internet. So I'm paying $55 a month to Verizon right now for about a little under 400 down and maybe 10 up, but it's working, as you can see. But that cut our, we're retired, so fixed income. So yeah, we've got the bundle with Disney Plus and Netflix with commercials, and we're just living with that. we can't really get rid of HBO. There's too much on HBO we want to watch. I'm trying to get caught up with all the Star Trek stuff I haven't watched on Paramount Plus, so I can cancel that and maybe take a break for a while, and then maybe subscribe to Peacock, because there's some things I want to watch on there.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorites right now is Pluto, which is free, with commercials. But they have an MST3K channel. If you just feel like watching MST3K, you can just turn it on and watch MST3K as long as you want, for free.
Anybody a sports fan amongst us? Or Howard?
Baseball, just baseball.
Yeah. How do you get your baseball?
Just Dodgers. Huh?
How do you get your Dodgers games?
Actually, given that Spectrum doesn't know how to negotiate a contract during the season, I don't get most of the.
So you're not subscribed. DirecTV Stream would be the other way to get Spectrum Sportsnet,
right? But
for the
but
Dodgers,
no, we use YouTube TV for what we would normally use terrestrial. We are 80 miles away from Mount Wilson and on the wrong side of a hill. So since we're not using cable TV anymore, we're using YouTube TV to get the channels we would normally get through cable.
Howard, what about you? Where do you get your sports?
So for baseball, it's MLB, which is part of, I have season tickets to the Phillies. And so MLB comes with that, which is wonderful. So I can watch whatever baseball, but also just on YouTube, the 10-minute summaries are amazing because, not every game I want to watch for 2.5 hours and 39 minutes on average, or whatever the current average is. So it's nice to get that 10-minute wrap up for other teams and stuff like that. But yeah, MLB plus YouTube. Yeah.
All right. But Todd, what about you?
Unfortunately, down in Florida, I'm a Patriots fan because that was where I started up. And you can't really do much other than pay for a service. So I pay for NFL, and I also pay for MLB because I want to watch whatever game I want to watch without having to think about it. Unfortunately, it doesn't get me my local games, but someday they'll figure that out, and I won't have to use weird websites to watch them.
Do you do NFL Sunday Ticket through YouTube or the NFL mobile one?
The mobile one.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that's maybe what you meant. All right. Any other sports before we wrap up here?
What, you don't want to talk about sports for like another hour, Tom?
No. I'm just saying if there was anybody else that needed to weigh in. I didn't want to
call
out the people.
I just kind of wanted to apologize to Sarah for being a Dodgers fan since about 1958.
It's all right. Gary, I forgive you. Congrats.
They moved to LA when I turned 9. I mean, and I lived in LA.
What are you going to do? Yeah.
I always say, I'm a Giants fan by birth. I have to hate the Dodgers.
Yes.
But I kind of rooted for them in the World Series. Don't tell anybody. Yeah, it was, I
will root for any team playing the Astros.
Yeah, it's sports.
Yep.
You do what you do. Well, we thank all of you for being with us. This has been really fun.
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
I feel like I know you all more than I had before. I'm going to go clockwise again for anybody who's looking at our stream, which nobody is. But Andrew, starting with you, where can they find where you are online, what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on LinkedIn somewhere, but I don't update it. Like I update it when I switch jobs. So, I'm more of a social media observer than contributor. So,
well, you wouldn't be the only one, but we're really, really happy to have you, and very cool sweater, by the way.
Thank you.
Don't think we didn't notice.
No, that's no moon on your sweater.
Gary Fisher, where can people find you?
Mostly on Substack, seniorgeek.substack.com, which is also my handle on Blue Sky. And so those are, I have everything but X I have an account on, but if you're looking for me, Substack would be the place to find me.
Well, very cool.
I'm up to 6 paid.
Yeah. Very good.
So I am a professional writer now.
Fantastic.
Oh, Tom,
Well,
I thought
congrats,
Tom, I
yeah.
thought you might recognize this T-shirt.
Ah, an FSL t-shirt. That's very cool. Gallifrey Time Lords. Love it.
Howard Yermish, you're very online. So where can we find your work?
You can go to howardyermish.com and download a copy of The Piano Inside My Brain. Listen to it right there. It is also available through all major streaming services, or throw $5 at the author for Bandcamp purchase if you'd like. But yeah, howardyermish.com is the place to go to listen.
Indeed. Very cool. Todd Belcher, where can we find what you are up to?
Well, I am Todd B on Blue Sky, though I'm not there so much. So look for me at toddb.us, which will take you to my LinkedIn, where I am all the time. Unfortunately, it's my social network of choice.
That's where everybody is these days.
Twitter died, right? And it's just it's something else now. So
a lot of people are looking for their next place. That is definitely a thing that's going on for sure. What about Mark Bussell Jr., which many of you may know as a non-junior? It's so nice to see you, in the flesh. But where can we find you when you're not hanging out with us and chat?
Mostly I'll direct you over to anonjunior.com. That's got links to my X. It still says Twitter, X and Instagram accounts, because I can't always get a non-junior. Sometimes I got to do a non-junior live. It's also got my YouTube and Twitch channels, which hopefully will be resuming after my unexpected cancer interruption. I hope to get those going back up in January. And once I get my podcast going, that'll be up there too. And I'll get the backlog of posts up together as well.
Well, I know I speak for all of us when I say we hope you have a swift recovery. And
I am very near the end of that. This upcoming Valentine's Day will be 2 years post-transplant. I will be off the last of my medications and receive the last of the missing vaccine shots, because with bone marrow transplant, it's like you have a whole new immune system again. So I got to get all those shots all over again.
You're going to be bionic when this is all over.
I got bionic eyes.
Yeah. You can join Gary's Bionic Club.
I just got cataract surgery in both eyes. So
fantastic. Well, congrats on that. And before we go, I asked Udio to create 30 seconds of music as a tribute for all of you, and it has put out Together for the Holidays. So let's hear it.
Chicago's bustling tech-based race with the DTNS gather round shouting loud with an Andrew and Andrew crowd. Holiday special, boys are blend in the crowd. Tom and Sarah here to sing it aloud.
That's it. That's 30 seconds. That's all you get. So
not bad. A little popish, but
yeah, it classified it as indie pop. So
sure.
I think it's on the verge of a banger.
I liked it.
Yes, on the verge. Yes. Like it just needs your touch, Howard.
Exactly. We're almost there. Like our Eras tour is right around the corner.
Right there.
I asked Gemini to create some lyrics for a video of my brother and I flying kites when I was 5 and he was 3. And then I deleted half of them, and then I put them into Udio and created a song. And it's not that bad, but
it's not that bad.
It's not great either.
That is the one-shot description of every Udio song out there. Hey, thanks to everybody for helping support the show. We could not have done it without you. You can always support the show at any level at dailytechnewsshow.com/Patreon. We are incredibly grateful, especially at this time of the year, for your support. So thank you.
Thank you indeed. And speaking of patrons, we'll be back with live shows on January 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern, 2100 UTC at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. And we'll see you tomorrow with our best of Good Day Internet of 2024. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.